Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Saturn conjunct Natal Pluto. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Saturn, they could be about restrictions, limitations, structure, discipline, responsibility, laborious work, and efforts. Now, when transit Saturn conjoins one's natal Pluto, well, this can manifest in restrictions, limitations, structure, having discipline, responsibility, laborious work, and efforts. It could be in making a transformation. If it's in your seventh house, it could be a relationship situation, might require more work and effort than you thought um, it would need previously. Fourth house, it might be a home situation, whether it might be remodeling or renovation or just simply moving to different residence. It can be also, Pluto is about crisis as well, and this could be about, really at this time dealing with maybe a crisis, being more responsible to it at this time. If it was something, monetary, like say if you had this in the second house, it might be time where you might not have any choice but to actually do something about it. If it's in the eighth house, say it could be over a tax or insurance matter. Pluto is about crisis and upheavals, and it's a time now for many that have this transit where it's about taking responsibility for those issues. Dealing with upheavals might be more of an arduous task, more so than usual. It might even be causing some kind of despondency or making you feel depressed. At this time as well, Pluto is about rebirth and regeneration. So it might be a time at this point in time where it might be one that might involve a career. Um, Maybe it's a career that's been resurrected that you left at some point in time that you might have ended at a point in time. Maybe now might be the time you come back to it. It could be the rebirth of a connection with a father or older person at this time. And this is also a period too. Pluto is about death as well. It doesn't have it's not necessarily literal death, like a person dying, but it can be. But it could also be about obliterating and ending something. And this could be even the time where you might be working hard to actually end something or having to take responsibility for something to come to an end. If there's a situation, say if it's in the seventh house and you're dealing with, an open adversary or it's a legal situation, it might be time where you feel this is the time to put it to an end, but it could also be something that requires a lot of effort on your part. And sometimes this could also be about having the discipline as well in these situations. Uh, it could be about also to, it's shared. Pluto is also connected with shared resources. It might be a time where you may be more disciplined in these areas. If it's something that is connected with spending money, you might be able to. It might be a situation where you have to maybe restrain yourself a little bit, and if there's that urge to spend, it might be a time to be a little bit more conservative. And also, to Pluto is about moral, emotional, and monetary support. So this could be the time as well where you could be working harder and maybe giving this to somebody, or maybe it's an arduous task as far as receiving it. It may be that you might be getting some from a father, from an older person. It could be a grandparent, maybe somebody that was a mentor to you. It might be more about structured, moral, emotional, monetary support, such where it's more consistent than it had been previously. Um, It could also be, when we look at Pluto anatomically speaking, it's associated with the bladder, the colon, the prostate, sex organs. So it might be a time where where these those issues, if you do have them, might be causing more difficulty. Might be you might be more pessimistic or negative regarding these things, or you're trying to do something perhaps to limit this situation. Especially if it's becoming more serious. Um, Remember, Saturn can be about chronic debilitations. I mean, especially if you have this, say, in the first or sixth house in your natal chart, because the first house, of course, is associated with the physical body. The sixth house can be connected with physical issues and debilitations. It's the house of physical health. Uh, Insurance and tax related matters might be more arduous at this time, might require more work and effort uh, than usual. Saturn could also be connected with the government, and the fact that Pluto can be connected with taxes could be a significant point in time for you, or maybe you don't really have much choice but to do what you have to do to pay taxes if they are owed. Maybe something's accumulated over a period of time and it's finally time to do something about it. Saturn often, can be karmic, and it could be the time where you have no choice but to take responsibility if you procrastinated on things, and that can include an insurance or tax related issue. So we're talking about Pluto. Now, Pluto is also associated with power and control. So some cases this may manifest in some power and control issues with an older person, an authority figure. It could even be a father, it could be a supervisor, a grandparent at this time. If you're in a situation at your job where you're in a subservient or subordinate role, it could be a time where you might be dealing with power struggles with this person, with a supervisor. Now, another way this could manifest is that a father or older person, or even somebody that may have been a mentor to you, um, might be more prominent in you making a major change or transformation in your life. Say if this falls in Scorpio in your 12th house as an example, it might be making perhaps a deep spiritual transformation. Uh, it might be a time too where it might be more about laborious efforts in Plutonian related matters. It could be connected with deep research and investigation, rebirth, regeneration, making a major change or transformation. Say if this falls, for example, in Scorpio in your 7th house, it could be maybe making it might be a lot of extensive research and investigation, which is Pluto, and perhaps corruption, which is Scorpio, with the justice system, and that's connected with the 7th house. Now, it could also be a time where you may be taking more responsibility in issues as far as having control and power over situations. If this falls, say, for example, in Sagittarius in the 6th house in your natal chart, it might be perhaps a health-related issue associated with sports. Perhaps maybe it's about becoming healthier through more outdoor activities. Sagittarius could be connected with the outdoors. It could be associated with sports. The 6th house, of course, is associated with health. Now, in isolated cases, not to be overly morbid or morose, but a Saturn person may pass away at this time. Remember that Saturn is connected with older people. It could be the father, it could be a grandparent, it could be a mentor even, somebody that maybe you knew well that was in the government or in politics or in some business. And Pluto is about death. So in some cases, this could be reflective of the father passing away, a grandparent, an older person that may have been prominent in your life scheme. And it might be a time where you might be more despondent over issues with death. It may surprise certain people. If you're a person that basically is not overly traumatized when somebody passes away, or you don't get overly emotional about it or upset, it might surprise some people, because it might be a time where you might be more become more melancholy over a passing at this time if this actually does occur. Another thing too, another way this can manifest and pan out in isolated cases, this could be about dealing with chronic Plutonian related debilitations. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, it could be, as I stated before, it could be about chronic Plutonian related debilitations in some cases. Remember that Saturn is connected with chronic illnesses and debilitations. Pluto is associated with the bladder, the colon, the prostate, the reproductive system, sexual organs. So it might be something that might be very chronic at this time that you may not have much choice but to actually do something about. Saturn is very serious energy, to say the absolute least. In some cases, it could also be Saturn. I call Saturn surgery because Saturn does rule certain parts of the body, the anatomy. Pluto is about surgery, so it could be some issues like perhaps with the teeth. Really, it's not really called surgery, I don't think, when you have something with a tooth, but it could be an extraction you might have to deal with. Um, it can be also too, it could manifest in like a knee replacement. Saturn does rule the knees. It could be some issues with the bones, the skins, the hamstrings that might require some surgical procedure at this time. And also too, in some cases, and not to be overly negative or morbid or morose, but again, I mean, chronic illnesses, for isolated cases, have a little greater propensity of leading to death because Saturn, again, is associated with chronic illnesses and debilitations. Pluto is the planet of death. It could be, say, if it's in Virgo, it could be some pancreatic issue, pancreatic cancer. Sagittarius, it might be something with the liver as another example. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.